Welcome everybody. Tēnā koutou, tēnā koutou, tēnā koutou katoa. I'm Debra Hall and I'm your MC for the evening, but most importantly I need to introduce you to Ali Chue, who is our host for the evening and who is going to take us through some health and safety and important information like we're the loser, and then tell us a bit about JB Weir before we head on into the rest of the program. So Ali, thank you so much for hosting us. Thank you for the fabulous food. I'm going to put your picture up on the screen now. Not her picture at all.
Tēnā koutou, tēnā koutou, tēnā koutou katoa. Good evening, everyone. Before the event starts, obviously I want to important health and safety. Here, if you're a visual person, we are here, and you come through the lift, and then you can come to this is the fire exit, the two sides and bathroom. So it's go through this pair of glass door on both. On the left is the bathroom, and both sides are fire exits. So it's all clear. And in case there's any emergency, I'm also the first aid officer.
Excellent.
My certificate is still valid.
Yes, you administer the kiss of life, do you?
I can do a lot of things. I hope you don't need to use my special skill. But normal skill is okay. My normal skill is investment advice. That's great. On the side, there is some of our pens and paper and our recent publication. You're welcome to take them home. And Debra asked me to talk about my observation of migrant contribution to the entrepreneurial system in New Zealand. So I would like to give you I can give you a great example. So I have been in this country for 20 years, so I know a bit. Back in the year 2000, Helen Clark, the Prime Minister of New Zealand at the time, has decided to steer our economy from an agriculture-focused economy to the knowledge economy we know today. So at that year, my first boss, he is a British and South African, started a consultancy firm in New Zealand. So the firm had been working with entrepreneurs, they come from Crown Research Institute, universities, and they come out a lot of new technology and ideas. And then we working with them to commercialization their ideas and technologies. And we connect them with the local economic agency and early stage investor. And at the time, there was a few companies doing the same thing, and that was back in early 2000. Ice Angel haven't even started yet. So the local entrepreneurial ecosystem has like a long history. So at the time that we had we are a small team of 6 people, half of us are migrants. So I was the financial analyst. I helped the company to do capital raisings. So I prepared all the documentation and consult with the entrepreneur how they should present and how they prepare the business plan and those things. And then we consult with this all early stage. We got from like gold farming, like the gold farmings from Mason University. We get like quite innovative keyboards for disabled people and health ingredients from Indus Research Group, those are Crown Research Institute. They come out a lot of new ideas. And also we work with, in the regions, different entrepreneurs, boat builders in Loveland, and some software developer in Taronga. And yeah, through that, it was a great experience for me as well. I was there for 1.5 years, and I observed that the local and the migrant, they're working together. And the most important is it's in a trust environment, and we collaborate together. So you can see information and talents and cash flow flows that they can move quite efficiently. So you can see for that, entrepreneur can grow their company at different stage and get all their resources they need. So I think that was really, really good example of early days. And fast forward, now we are 2023. Today, my capacity is a wealth advisor. I work with successful entrepreneurs in New Zealand and also migrant investors. So I can see that migrant had a lot of contribution to our entrepreneur ecosystem. So they are the entrepreneurs and they are the talents. For example, the largest technology retailer in New Zealand actually was founded by a migrant couple from Zhongguancun, so it's something like the Silicon Valley of Beijing. And they had employed like over 800 people, among them over 100 technicians and engineers. So those are great examples. And also, migrants are very skilled and talented. So for example, Frankie Wang and his team at BNZ, today there's a lot of fantastic bankers like Ivy, Leon and others, they're all here. And they are here to help business to grow. And the last is I would like to acknowledge MIA and their members are also great resource to New Zealand's ecosystems. And thanks David and Debra for putting on this event.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you, Ali. Isn't that the best of Auckland? Huh? Look at that view.
I love those cranes.
I know. The cranes say that the economy is moving, people. The cranes tell us we're still alive. Right, it falls to me now to introduce Linda Sturgis. Linda is the head of private capital at the BNZ, a long-time career banker, I think, and a supporter of Mia as well. So we appreciate your support. Thank you, Linda.
Thank you.
Linda and I have decided that, you know, people like us have teenagers in our lives and we don't need a microphone.
Well, I don't. I have a 17-year-old son, so I get to use my big voice quite a lot. So can everybody hear me at the back, or do you want me to pick up the mic? You're all good? Okay. I've got a very scripted speech because for quite a few of you have worked with me and know I can go on quite a lot. So what I'm going to do is just talk to you about what the BNZ is doing with private capital. So I'm going to start out with just a really simple definition of what private capital is to us. So it's purely the investment into privately owned businesses. But it's not just dollars, it's the knowledge and the networks and the governance that these investors bring to those businesses. So we know that family offices have been comfortable investing directly into privately owned businesses in the past because they have the right time horizon and they've got that right, they can accept the risk in return for the possibility of the higher returns. So it's something that we know that we can do more of private capital and we want to start actually building out the proposition. So we start investing in our businesses. But navigating a big bank like the BNZ is hard. I mean, we are the biggest lender to business and we bank over 30,000 business customers. But that's also an asset for us because we have the ability to identify high growth businesses. And so that's really what my mission is to identify the high growth businesses and then introduce them to investors that want to invest directly into businesses. Why me? It's really weird for me standing right here because I started my career with JB Ware in 1986.
Oh, so wow. That's when I came to New Zealand.
A very, very long time ago, and I was a futures broker back for JB Ware in those days, so it's lovely to actually be back on the premises. But it demonstrates I've seen a lot of business cycles. I've seen the market, we've seen a number of crashes. And we've seen a number of lovely upswings as well. My career has been predominantly on the investment side, and I spent 15 years running teams that manage the private bank wealth of a lot of New Zealanders and immigrants to New Zealand. So I've got a lot of experience there. So I went across and decided to learn the business banking part of a big bank. And I got to see firsthand what these founders go through as they take their businesses from small businesses to big businesses. And it's hard. They are all in. They are bootstrapping a lot of the way. And the number one constraint to growth is they run out of capital. So they may want to go through the step change growth, but they can't, because the bank suddenly comes along and says, we can't actually help you until you strengthen up your balance sheet. So that was where we developed this proposition, whereby I can use my skills from the investment side, marry them up with what I've seen from the business side, and help accelerate step change growth for these companies. And also on the investor side, we have these fabulous investors that I've never met an entrepreneur that's happy to retire. We have so many of them, they get to a stage, they sell their business for a large amount of money, but they're not comfortable just sitting at home, doing nothing. They want to give back. So this enables us to introduce them to each other. I can do it, navigate these 30,000 odd customers because I can activate the business and commercial partners. And I see we've got some of my business partners here tonight. They know their business customers intimately. They know which ones are going to go through that high growth, that step change growth. But they also get to a stage where they're going to have that difficult conversation about, we can't actually lend you some money until you actually sort out your capital position. But it's new territory for business owners. They're not skilled in the private capital world. And that's why we work with all the professionals in the market. We work with anybody that's keen on growing the private capital market, we're in there with them. We talk to the accountants and the lawyers about helping structure the businesses ready for receiving capital. We work with all the capital providers, the capital firms as well, because these businesses owners need to get advice, to get investment ready. So we very much, I just want to highlight too that the bank is doing this on a basis of we're not charging fees. We just want to help New Zealand businesses accelerate their growth, and we want to find opportunities for those investors that want to continue to invest. It's not just the money that the investors bring, it's back to that knowledge, the networks and the governance. And my final point is I want to just talk about Evan Fezzer and I, he's our head of international business. We're right at the start of this. In fact, Lisa Connor was there too, when the immigration policy came in. We were having all these fabulous investors come into New Zealand, and we had some pretty vanilla tools to give them to help them get investments, get their residency. So this enables us to open up, navigate that big bank network and actually unleash the calibre of these fabulous entrepreneurs that can help. They've seen things on the international stage and they can help our New Zealand businesses accelerate growth. Frankie Wang and I are part of the growth team, and we're charged with the somewhat lofty task with a 30-year time horizon of accelerating New Zealand's prosperity by growing New Zealand businesses and growing their business people. So this is how we can see we do that. So the last thing I want to say is that we value what the international investors have brought to our country, and we just really want to help you navigate the New Zealand business market, and it will help embed you into the market. And thank you all for coming.
It's awesome. Thank you so much, Linda. Thank you. Right, so those of you who read the kind of flyer will know that we have two parts to tonight after our lovely introductions. And we're going to first talk about migrant investors, and we've invited 4 investors who are migrants, not all migrant investor visa holders, but nevertheless I count myself a migrant investor because I came from South Africa in 1986 and I now invest. So these are all people who have come to New Zealand, navigated our strange culture here, sometimes strange and foreign culture, and are nevertheless investing in New Zealand. So I'm going to ask Rudy, Will, Kenneth and Pooj to come and sit 2 by 2 over here for me. What we've done is we've given them each 5 minutes, and there will be a timer. And the question for them is, introduce your investment approach and tell us how you empower migrant investors.
Wow, is that how it is?
You said no one wants to sit with Oosh, okay. Go on, I'll sit on this
Thank
side.
you, Debra. But one share away.
What don't I know?
Maybe you know everything.
Maybe I know everything. I used to tell my children, I run a market research company. It's my job to find out stuff. You can't get away with it. So I'm going to start with Rudy. Rudy is the chief cat herder, self-proclaimed, but very effective cat herder at an angel group in New Zealand, not just Auckland. Our angels are all over the place. I need to declare a conflict of interest, I suppose, because I'm a member of Flying Kiwi Angels. So I can, with that context, I can tell you that we're the best angel group in New Zealand. And part of that is that we started on the philosophy of we don't charge founders on their investment. We don't clip the ticket when we raise investment as an angel group from the founders. So Rudy was the founder, originally the brains behind it, and he now works relentlessly to get people to put their money into startups. Rudy, you have 5 minutes, the clock has started.
Okay, so what's the relevance? I mean, the majority of our angels are clearly migrants, right? In fact, there are so many people in New Zealand, migrants. We're a group of 60 active angels, and when I say active, I mean these are people who will engage with startups. They will have a conversation with them early on. Every Thursday in Auckland, we have sessions with founders, up to 6, and we talk to them. And there's no gatekeeping. Anybody can come. They just have to book a slot. There's 5 or 6 of us angels in the room giving them feedback. This is learning from when I was on the screening committee of another angel group, and I found that so many times I wanted to say, we should have talked 9 months, 12 months ago. The advice that we have now is not palatable, but when we talk to them early, they're listening. So that's what active means. Active means also doing due diligence. You don't just do an investment on the basis that hopefully it's going to work, but you're going to go and look, and that's what we do. Our DD is fairly well recognised in New Zealand as a high standard amongst angel groups. There are angel groups that invest just on a pitch night and a good feeling. We don't think that's a good thing, because you don't know who's going to win, but you surely can identify a lot that will fail. So we try and pick the ones that are not going to fail with the hope that some of them will. We've had over 5 exits since we founded in 2014. We have about 30 active portfolio companies right now. The other piece of active engagement means stepping in after the investment and continuing with the support. We generally have an investor rep on the company to help with that process. That's pretty much what we do, what we stand for. To give you some examples, at the moment we've got 3 open deals. One of them is in the room. Andrew is here representing Kayasand. Kayasand is about, it's pretty much a green technology. It's actually recycling concrete, avoiding dredging of sand, which is a limited resource in this world. I'm talking our wonderful beaches are being dredged to make concrete. But Kayasand goes back to IP out of Japan. Now we have an angel who's lived in Japan, who has helped to facilitate that connection and that communication. We have another angel that actually lives in Japan, so that's helping and supporting that sort of company. Another company that we're at the moment investing in, they've got soft robotics technology. This company exists in New Zealand. Most of the IP is coming from here, but it's already having some operation in Germany. They want to flick completely into Germany. They already have investors that are interested, provided the company is in Germany. We're investing, but also we've been asked by the company to help. And I sent an email to 6 or 7 German angels we have on our books to help facilitate that process. We've got one couple actually who live at the moment in Germany, helping the company go into Germany. And I think this is what active migrant investorship means. You know, we've got a lot of power, a lot of knowledge that we can bring. Insights into markets. I mean, I love it when we have people from other places coming and telling us, hey, that sounds interesting in New Zealand, but it's old hat in the US, or that's already happening a lot in Europe, or that's never going to fly for that reason. Because a lot of the startups in New Zealand are predicated on the hope to take it overseas. But for a lot of those hopes, you have to say, look, it's not real, it's not going to happen. You're not going to make that work. Being good in New Zealand doesn't mean you're going to be successful overseas. And that's where we will avoid investing. And maybe our advice can help redirect that enthusiastic founder into something more profitable long term. Because there's nothing worse than seeing people waste their time when they've got the right entrepreneurial spirit.
Thank you.
Okay, that's probably about it.
Fantastic, thank you so much. Awesome. Right, who's up next? I think we'll put Pooja up next, thank you. Pooja Prina is an investor and tech startup advisor and a man of few words, because that's all he told me.
It's true. Basically what Debra's saying is I didn't do my homework and get my narrative beforehand. I should be very nice about it. Hi, my name is Pooja Prina. I am a general partner at a new fund of funds called Nexus Capital Management. So it's an entity that's just recently established to help and conform with the new accredited investor program that NZT is qualifying people for, or for investor immigrants for. I think the premise behind what we're trying to do is actually trying to reduce the friction in getting some of these skilled people that Linda was talking about into the country. And one of the biggest hurdles to doing that is, as Linda said, where do you put your money? How do you deploy it? And the new rules, for those who aren't as familiar, is it's $15 million, or you get a sort of a 2x multiplier if you're able to deploy it into private capital, which includes funds, venture capital funds, private equity funds, etc. So what we're working on, and I'm doing this in partnership with Matthew Hartman and David actually from MEIA, is putting together a fund of funds for New Zealand private equity. So the private equity cycle here is long and disparate, as you would in terms of fundraising. So funds raised on a cycle, and those cycles don't necessarily match up to when immigrants want to come in and qualify for New Zealand, because you have to make and commit your dollars before you can actually start your clock on your immigration side. And so by doing a fund of funds, we're able to help those folks sort of diversify their portfolio without having to understand what's going on in the local market directly, because they typically don't have that knowledge straight away. You know, they haven't spent time here, they don't know who the managers are, they may not be able to get allocation, etc. So we'll be able to solve that part of the problem and then deploy that capital over a period of time, but because we take the commitment at the start, that sort of starts the clock straight away for their immigration, and we'll draw that commitment over time. So that's sort of the main problem that we're solving, is sort of speed and removing the risk from understanding what's going on in the private equity market. We're also going to look at probably a very small amount of late stage venture capital, so the growth stage. So again, it's about preservation and growth of capital into the private businesses versus risk taking, because I think when immigrants are moving to New Zealand, they're able to make their own risk decisions. But typically what we've seen historically, I think, is people are a little bit more averse to risk, at least before they start get here and get established. And so we also act as sort of the fiduciary for those investors. So we're looking at the fund managers, determining what the allocation should be, making sure that it's sort of a risky portfolio approach to sort of fund management in that regard. And then, you know, the other part of the problem that we think we can solve for, and again, this is a hypothesis yet to be confirmed, is that, again, to what Linda was talking about, once you can actually get those people into New Zealand, which is sort of predicated on them actually getting their visa approved, which is predicated on them investing their money, so hence the first problem that we solve, you know, they are typically entrepreneurial, they are typically highly skilled, and because we'll have a portfolio of funds that we are interacting with, you know, it's our intention to sort of think about how we can connect those limited partners in our fund of funds to the companies and funds that we work with, as well as other opportunities we see. The way that we've structured the entity, we have an allocation available for direct co-invest, for example, so we can invest directly into companies, or one-off deals that we see that might be interesting and on a risk-adjusted basis could be quite good from a return perspective. So that's my
Fantastic, fantastic.
How did I do
so
on time?
You did fantastically well. I mean, look,
Always nice to get kudos from Debra.
I'm sure you'll be pleased to know there's more time for questions.
Oh.
Right, I'm going to ask Will to come up next, please.
Okay.
Will, you've got, yes, if you
Yeah.
want to just do your slides. No,
Sorry.
okay. Oh, no, he says.
I don't want to make mess.
There we go. How's that?
So
Yeah.
I think we're one down already, right?
Yeah, no, we
So,
Outplayed.
Will is,
Yeah, how can I click on?
you just tell me and I will, oh yeah.
Okay, I can have that.
Do,
Can
move
I
that
have 5 minutes?
to there.
I think so, yeah,
How's
absolutely.
Yeah.
Linda, have you
There
started?
you go.
Debra, have you
So-
started the clock?
Yes, it's a,
Not now.
it's a touch. Okay, so Will is a GP at Eden Ventures and co-founder of Shenma Technology, providing funding and technology to help ambitious entrepreneurs from 0 to 10, and also help winners go to IPO in the US. Will, you have 5 minutes.
Thank you very much for it's really a great opportunity to meet so many patients and passionate and migrants investors. So actually I want to introduce this from 0 to 10 as actually a new project. I'm an LP of Ice House Ventures and also GP of Eden Venture. Myself is startup founders as well. So actually 0 to 10 is the project I want to introduce. Yeah, you can find me on LinkedIn, which is easier to get all the background of myself. And also some highlights. Actually I started learning coding very early when I was quite young. And I used to work for Microsoft for 10 years, and also I'm the person to set up the cloud computing business in China for the Microsoft China. And during my previous career, in China, I have created 2 ICT products, which is exceeding users 100 million. Also other projects, but they are not big enough. I immigrated here 2014, so can be a new one. It's still new. Migrant. I do invest and startup, which is my passion. So as a new immigrant or migrant, I think the first question is how to myself is how to quickly settle down and integrate it into the local society. In other words, the question can be, what New Zealanders want us to do? This question, I will not give my answer for myself. I ask ChatGPT. And this is the big data answer. So welcome those who are willing to work hard, right, and contribute to the country. New Zealanders expect new immigrants to fill gaps in the workforce, start business, and help to drive innovation and growth. So all these things is our target, right? If we want to integrate into the local society, we just follow this. Okay. So I think it's you can every immigrant has their valuable asset, which is money, can be money, or can be the experience, the technology, the skills. Okay. So actually, from 0 to 10 as an incubator, community doers, founders or investors as well, aligned for success. Startup, the question is how the startup faces lots of difficulty, how to help these startups or to do the creative things. And actually, I asked ChatGPT again. Startups all facing the same difficulty as ChatGPT said yes. Okay, so the first thing is like fund. Okay, second, hiring, business model, marketing, brands. So I continue asking, why they need raise fund? Yeah, not surprised. Okay, yeah, there is money for product development, marketing, sales, hiring, and everything. It's HR things, build a team, right? Infrastructure and technology, and other things. Okay, so I have an idea. Because what we did in the Eden venture is we helping the startups, the people brave and also ambitious, and to help them to be success. Or at least at the beginning, to help them to go a little further. Okay, so actually these things, why they need to raise fund. So we want to
30 seconds.
Yeah, to be more specific. Yeah, we provide CTO, product manager, designer, development teams, and its initial user base. So we're providing the not only fund, but also ready to go team. Only need a CEO. Yeah.
Perfect. There you go.
Right on time.
It's like
And I've left Kenneth till last because everyone tells me that everyone knows Kenneth. Kenneth is a director of Tiaki Capital and a MEA partner member. So Kenneth, please tell us. I'll deal with that.
Oh, yeah. I'll let you sort it out. Okay.
Ignore the screen while Kenneth talks.
That's fine. I'll pretend to be little.
I'll just start the clock.
Yes. Okay, well, yeah, I'll get started before she can click the 5-minute timer. All right. Look, I guess I'll kick off by thanking Mia and the good work of David Wang. I mean, it's a amazing platform and incredible initiative. And thanks to my good friends at JB Ware, Ellie, I don't know where Ellie is, but you know, really good work organizing this, and with Lisa and my friends at BNZ as well, Frankie, Linda. Great to be with you today. I just literally got in an hour ago from Singapore.
That's commitment.
Dropped my bag downstairs. My office is on level 17 and dropped that and turned up. So no slides, no preparation, so just off the cuff. Now, I don't run the fund. I've personally invested in startups and have co-founded as well startups. So over the last 5 years, I guess, together with my co-investors, we've probably deployed just over 10 mil, I guess, in startup / greenfield ventures of equity capital, not debt. So what I really do in terms of my real job, you know, when I'm not doing my other stuff, really I run a firm that facilitates both M&A deals and capital raising, both debt and equity capital. We like sending deals to BNZ, you know, the top cash flow lenders in town. I focus very much on the cash flow positive deals, basically. So not so much startups, but ventures that have, I guess, been around for a while and are making money, good revenue, kind of track record, but looking to grow to the next level. There's a major problem in New Zealand, and I don't need ChatGPT to tell you this. There's a shortage of expansion capital, and just reiterating the point that Linda made earlier. So what I do is I work together with investors, both local investors as well as foreign investors, to basically help businesses to get to the next level. So I was recently, like I said, I just got in an hour ago. I was with a client, so I went to see my investors in Singapore and Malaysia, but also with a client and looking to raise about sort of just over 10 million of equity, and a very, very profitable business. And domestically, there's I guess, a shortage of equity to finance this venture. So we've managed to secure an investor who's looks like going to drop 5 million as part of the new active investor plus policy. And so that's a good outcome both for the company looking to grow and the investor. So I've asked myself over the last 20 years of being involved in deals here, I've asked myself, how come we don't see more of these cross-cultural deals? Now, they're in the short, kind of my remaining 2 minutes, I'm unable to cover all these points, but I guess I just want to highlight a couple of issues I've seen, time and again, and there's a cultural gap, a massive cultural difference, and there's a need for all of us here collectively as old Kiwis and new Kiwis to help bridge that gap. It's not just about language, it's things like, for example, right, like there's a clear delineation between work and life here. In many parts of Asia, there's not, right? So basically, I've been drinking all night, every night for the last 10 days, so I'm struggling. My mind is, I guess, a bit cloudy now, but it's important. It's part of doing business. Now, we don't work fast enough here. I mean, when you're up in market, like, people expect an instant response. I've heard entrepreneurs here tell me, oh, look, not so keen to have Messenger, WhatsApp, WeChat, on my phone because I don't want to be disturbed after hours, That's not how the world works, unfortunately. And I've got like 7 direct messaging apps, and my phone keeps buzzing even as I'm up here with you now. Sometimes in New Zealand we take a very transactional approach as well, and there needs to be a renewed focus on relationship building, and focus on the relationship first, the money will come. Now we think, look, we've got to make it happen fast, we're only there for 2 days, we've got to get a deal done, sign a term sheet. No, actually, if you spend more time investing in the relationship up front, what you will find is that it's more efficient in the long term. Thank you.
Thank you. What a beautiful. So I have the mic now, the metaphorical mic, because I don't need it. And I want each of you've touched on something that's so important, Kenneth, and I think Will touched on it well in terms of what do New Zealanders expect from migrants? I used to run a market research company. So I can tell you that, but I'm not going to. But what I will tell you is that we would regularly, for the banks, including people like BNZ, we would regularly survey small business owners. New Zealand is a nation of small businesses. And I discovered in every survey questionnaire, there's the killer question. The killer question when you're surveying small business owners in New Zealand is, do you want to grow? Now, I'm guessing that in this room you're going, well, you're a business owner. What a stupid question. But I ended up in a business with a business partner who did not want to grow, and I did not know that until we had started the business. And she kept forcing these, how do we limit growth conversations? Until one day, I was a very slow learner. I didn't have a board of directors. This would have happened a lot faster if I had governance. One day, about 2.5 years later, she started this conversation again, and if you'll excuse my language, because I'm a Kiwi and I can get away with it, I said, I'm not having this fucking conversation again. If you don't want to grow, leave. And then the company grew, of course. So, what I want to know from each of you is, what is the most challenging part of Kiwiness that you've encountered?
Question for me?
Yeah, go,
okay,
everyone.
Yeah.
That makes the others think a bit longer.
Yeah. So your question is, what's the part?
What's the thing that you look at when you look at Kiwi culture and go,
okay, yeah.
I don't get that.
Okay. Actually, you have very right answer. Even I asked ChatGPT. I didn't show that. But I definitely did that. I asked that, and they said, okay, New Zealanders cherish work-life balance. Okay, yeah. So as I think the ChatGPT told us everything, because they said, okay, why we want your migrant come here? Because we don't want to work hard.
Excellent.
You work harder, and you start a business. You contribute on the growth.
You pay taxes for us?
Yeah. Oh, sorry. No offense. Okay.
So
Just
we're not. No one here is allowed to take any offence. This is what is for you the most
because
challenging
ChatGPT
thing?
said just work-life balance is a value.
I was astonished at that. I have to say. How about you, Pooch? What's the most challenging cultural barrier?
Well, so
other than me,
I think a little bit differently to I'm born and raised in New Zealand, so I think that differs me from the three of you.
Do you pay tax?
I do pay tax. I do pay tax here and in America. Okay. That's probably why I'm over on this side. It's like the island divide. I think when I was here, the answer was like what everyone in New Zealand aspired to, were the 3 Bs, right? It was the boat, the batch, and the BMW. And I think that's what sort of what we're hearing with Kenneth as well. It's the work ethic and the desire to work hard and work more to get more. I remember when I went to prior to coming back to New Zealand, I was at a company called iRobot that makes some little robotic vacuum cleaners, market leader in that space, and I was having a meeting in China with one of our competitors. In fact, some ex-Microsoft founders from the US went back to their home in China and started a company called Roborock, which some of you may have heard of. And we were sitting across the table from them at their office in China, and we were having a little chat about the business. He goes, "Yeah, we started by copying your product." They're just very open about it. "We started by copying your product and selling it here in China. But the reality is you're just not going to win because we work 996, sorry." And I'm like, what does that mean? Like I didn't understand what that was. Because I'd never heard it like that, but it was just something, it was normal. He said, 9 a.m. to 9 p.m., 6 days a week. Like that's the work ethic. And he was basically making fun of the Americans, that they weren't working as hard as the Chinese, and that's what would slow them down. And I think if I put New Zealanders in the context of the Americans, we're slower still, right? And I think that's global competitiveness, right? That's if you are an entrepreneur, and I think you see this from entrepreneurs, if you are an entrepreneur and you have an innate drive to do things, you will tell your business partner to please leave if they want to stand in your way, right? Yeah. And that's the drive, but that's not culturally the norm here. That's the exception. And I think in New Zealand, when you do things that are different to the norm, you are on the outside. So I think that's sort of the challenge in a nutshell.
really? Yeah. How long have you been in New Zealand?
A little over 20 years.
Yep.
So most of the founders we see are probably not Kiwis, so it's not really a problem. I mean, I'm thinking back today. Thursdays we have these advice sessions. It was hard to understand a gentleman because his English wasn't that great. Mm-hmm. But they have ideas, they have drivers, and they make connections here. And actually, that is another point that I see a lot of genuine Kiwis. They're actually constrained by their connectedness. They get very quick validation because they pick up the phone and they have this product trial by lots of different companies very quickly and think that they've got something great. But actually, the doors open like that in the rest of the world. It's just not real. And we've looked at some companies where we built this product for this vertical, but everybody else is loving it too.
Oh.
Right?
Yes.
And we know that's never a good idea. You want focus. But the point is, I know somebody in Fonterra. I picked up the phone and they bought a copy because it's peanuts to them. It doesn't matter. It's not validation, and it's the personal network and connectedness. And then the other piece about not wanting to upset the apple cart and people that and Kiwis are not good at just telling you up front where it's at. I think foreigners tend to be a bit more straightforward, and that's helpful.
Kenneth? Your biggest chat?
Look, I mean, ChatGPT might disagree with me, but in my view, look, speed is the most vital, critical success factor.
Yeah.
And speed in all regards. I mean, I mentioned communication as an example, right? Not replying to messages for 5 days, or that's one example. But like I see this across the board. I mean, like for example, overspending on product development. Okay, look, let's take it easy. Let's make sure we get the product right instead of getting it to market and asking what the customers think. And jumping to conclusions, thinking, oh, look, surely the Chinese will love this, And we've got to fast track everything, getting product to market, test, and then come back and then scale up quickly. And every day matters. And this is something that I think we underappreciate, how time is money.
Yeah. Thank you. Please join me in thanking our investors for sharing this. I'm going to ask our entrepreneurs to come up now and take your seats. Like some of the people who've just spoken, I find so I'm looking for Robin, Michelle, Knight and Stefan. Please sit 2 by 2. This issue of ambition. The issue of ambition and drive in New Zealand is actually primary to why we need to support each other as migrants to navigate the local scene. And it's no surprise that wherever you go in the world, including in the US, there's an over-indexing of success amongst migrants, because frankly, migrants have had the entrepreneurial drive to pack their bags or sometimes flee without their bags and go and start life in a new country. When I arrived in New Zealand, I had a 10-day-old baby. I knew no one here, and a 3-year-old. I had no telephone and no car. I survived, somehow. Right, but that's another story. One day I'll tell that in this form. Right, I'm going to ask Robin to start, I think. We have a slide. Is that your slide? Robin, welcome. Yeah. So Robin Liu is from AI Systems, the founder and CEO of what is apparently the fastest growing SaaS behind restaurant success. So Robin, we're looking forward to hearing about what you do and your journey as a migrant entrepreneur.
Thanks. It's actually my first public speech.
Oh, wow.
So just like Will, I asked GPT, and he said, back off, do it yourself. So, so I did. So first of all, thanks to David and Mia for organizing everything. David, along with a few other friends here, has been watching us grow from 0 to 1. And we are proud to be one of the early members of Mia. The community is really great. So we specialize in online, offline point of sale solution for restaurants. During the pandemic, we helped a lot of restaurants to take orders contactlessly, self-ordering, online orders, and all that. And it's all AI powered. We help them to manage the stores better, and it connects to their customers and the suppliers the smarter way. Currently, we are exploring the application of Amazon personalization engine in our field, like bring some data skills for the merchants. Currently, we're providing service to about 70% of the bubble tea stores in New Zealand. So I'm really the bubble tea man. I drink a lot of bubble tea. And Chinese restaurants as well. We own about 50% of the market, and our new niche market is cafes and fast food stores. As for myself, I'm immigrant. I came to New Zealand in 2001. I was 17 at the time. I spent a lot of years in the payments industry. So I used to work a lot with the bank's merchant services. To be frank, I didn't like them. So this new journey started in 2019. Aimer It's my second startup company. It's the first time for me to be a SaaS service provider. The new journey was a little bumpy at the beginning. Put it this way, the first few customers were really angry with us. One of them called me, midnight, complaining that he thinks we caused a bath out because the tills was giving wrong changes. And that wasn't the first problem, obviously. So we ended up rebuilding everything like twice. Took a couple of years, almost broke my bank. Hopefully, in 2019, we sort of worked. The customers stopped calling me Aluminium Night, and some of them even recommended us to new customers. Recently, we went through a very interesting branding exercise. The name AI system is just too big. It's too simple. We picked the name because we were too busy fixing those problems at restaurants. Didn't prioritize the company name until recently. So the team was all very excited on the project, and we worked like overnight, came up with 3 names at the shortlist. The third name, the third on the list, was AI-47, like AK-47, AI-47. The second in place, I really didn't like the name, but a lot of the team did. It's Pussycat. It spells pussycat, but with O instead of U. Pause, and then cat, Pussycat. Anyway, Aimer was my idea. Why Aimer? I want to keep the element of AI in the logo. And then, AI pronounced I in Chinese, or I. So that's love. Love. And love in French is aimer. So my concept is we help the merchants to aim better with the power of love. That's a cool name, isn't it? Yeah. So I convinced the whole team to go for that name, and we did it. We spent a few months to rebuild the website, SEO, marketing materials, and all that. I think we spent like 20 grand. Crazy. Last week, the website was finally ready, and everybody was impressed with my idea. And I was so proud, looking at the shiny new website, the beautiful Aimer logo, it's better, right? And then I Google searched Aimer to realize it's a famous women's underwear brand in Singapore. So now I keep telling myself, it's okay, it's better than Pussycat. Still better, right? Anyway, 2020 was the game-changing year for us. Long story short, we built online, offline thing too early. Not all kiwis need them. During the pandemic, every restaurant needs to go online, and we had a best solution ready at the time. So we fast grew since then until now. So if you share my tips with with any new startup founders, I would say passion is important. Do the right thing at the right time is important, but the most important thing is to get company name right. Right, so that's all from me. For investors, if you look for fast-growing startup SaaS, that's us. Please talk to us, help us to scale. Cheers.
Damn, you stole my punchline. I used to be chairman of the board of a company called Grace Thorpe, the next one is lingerie. And so when I saw Emma, I was like, I wonder if they know.
I think we should add something after Emma.
I do have some advice for those of you looking for a brand name, though.
Right.
ChatGPT is fantastic at generating brand names. It's one of the few things it's good for.
I'll do that tonight.
Right. Who's up next? Relay. Knight. This is you. So Knight Ho is co-founder and CEO of Relab, the fastest growing property tech startup in New Zealand. I think one of the challenges we have at the moment around the investor migrant active visa thingy is about how property tech is being classified in terms of whether it is or isn't property investment. Knight, please tell us about Relab and your
Is it okay to use a mic?
Yeah, please.
Hello.
Right. So Knight is using the mic because of the chatter in the back.
Yeah,
No
I'm
one
using
can
it.
hear.
And plus, I don't have two teenagers. Hey, good evening. Tēnā koutou. Debra Hall. My name is Debra Hall. I'm the CEO and co-founder of a property data platform called Relab. Actually, on my way in today, I've spoken with quite a few of our customers who happen to be using Relab or have used Relab. So can I maybe get a quick show of hands? Have you heard of Relab before? Maybe
Raise your hand if you've heard of Relab before.
Okay, awesome.
Wow.
Thank you.
I'm feeling out of it now.
Everyone tonight here will get a free trial from you. Okay, so Relab, we are a property data SaaS company. We've started the company in 2016 and we've commercialized in 2020. So similar to Robin, 2020 was a very critical year for us. And from 2020 until now, we've grown from 0 market share to 25% market share in the real estate agent software business in New Zealand. And we continue to grow. We've grown from 2 people to 12. And our current ARR, annual recurring revenue, is 1.5 circa mil. So I'd like to share with you guys maybe 3 things. Number one is just my personal journey. So thank you for all the investors sharing your point of view. I like to share on the opposite side, what's it like being an entrepreneur, and secondly, what does it mean for our business and where to next, and lastly, just a little bit about the relevance between startup and kids. So that's what I hope to achieve over the next couple of minutes. So personal journey, I was an immigrant. I came to New Zealand in 2002 to pursue education, like many of you. Actually, there is a very interesting story. Before coming to New Zealand, many of us had to do English training in China, from China. And Rob and I, in 2021, were in the same class. And we reconnected many, many times later on in our lives. So after uni...
The friend of fate.
Yeah. Did we go to uni together? No, we didn't.
Same uni.
Same uni.
And my second boss was your classmate.
Yes, so Will was my classmate.
One of you is stalking.
Yeah. So after university, Robin joined Payment Express, which is now UK, and I started my 10-year journey in New Zealand. And quite often I was on the phone. I was helping in New Zealand building grab a seat on a booking system, and I'll be on the phone with Robin to say, hey, DPS payment portal is down, we can't process credit card. So that was our second sort of, interwoven with fate. And lastly, it was 2020. I had a bit of a career sort of bottom, and Robin, it was pandemic. We actually had dinner and coffee, and back then, Robin was repositioning AI assistant, and I was sort of thinking about where next to for Relab. At the time, we had 200 users, and now it's 3,000. So it's just, interesting. New Zealand works in such a way, even for us as migrants. It's bloody hard to start something new and be an entrepreneur because, as Debra commented on, in New Zealand, the majority of our businesses are small to medium sized. They don't want to grow, and they're very happy in that space. And we have a few big companies, BNZ in New Zealand and the like, but they are the corporate world. Growth might not be their number one priority, with the exception of the private capital market. But then you're left with something in the middle, which are growth companies. It's hard because you're creating value, you're finding market niche, you're figuring out where you're at in a competitive landscape, and all along you need determination, capital, ability to problem solve, and ability to connect the dots. So it's not easy, and especially in New Zealand, because if you're a startup in the US or China or Europe, you're faced with $100 million plus market size. Even if you're a very, very small player in a niche, you can be a multi-million-dollar company. In New Zealand, unfortunately, due to our market size, if you want to start up something new, you have to aim to become the global leader from day one. As Rudy commented on, if you become a leader in a niche in New Zealand, you're not big enough. You know, you won't even call the eyes of PE or some VCs, let alone IPOs. So it is hard to start up something new. At the same time, it's why it's exciting, because you have to constantly benchmark yourself not only with the New Zealand players, but also what's going on in Aussie, what's going on in other parts of the world. So that's why we have great companies like Xero, PushPay, EasyVet, the list goes on, because they have really, really done their job in terms of market validation. So when they do achieve market validation in New Zealand, we can quickly scale in other markets. So my personal journey, after 15 years of corporate life, I've decided to give startup a go, and Relab was a company that I co-founded in 2016. So why? Why property? Why data? In my head, the decision was simple. Startup is very risky, so there is 0.1% of a chance for a startup to achieve 10 mil valuation. We know that. So if I were to do something risky, I'm going to do something I'm passionate about, and I'm going to do something that has a bigger chance to succeed. As we know, Kiwis love property, and New Zealand is one of the most active in terms of property activities globally. We know that, but I've actually got some numbers here to share with you to just put that into perspective. So if you look at the number of property transactions per capita globally, number one is Germany, 7% in terms of transactions per capita. Number two is South Korea, 5.5%. Number three is New Zealand at 3% per capita. So it means for 5 million Kiwis, or 4.5, 3% of homeowners are changing hands, and Australia is 2%. So that's a huge, I guess, part of GDP, if you like, or economy to focus on. And why data? Because property is quite a traditional business, much part of it, and data is what I believe is going to help investors, home buyers, real estate agents, and other professionals to make the right decision. So that's the rationale behind me choosing this vertical to focus on. So that's just my startup journey. I'm really enjoying it. As we know, everyone, we're in our sphere of knowledge, sphere of influence. You know what you know what you don't know. But the trickiest part is figuring out what you don't know. Whereas I figured startup was the best way to help me learn that. Okay, I think I'm out of time.
That was perfect.
Okay, cool. Thank you, Deborah. Cheers, everyone. Thank you.
See you afterwards if you want your free trial of Relab.
Yes.
Everyone wants to know what their property is worth, especially now. Right. Okay, we're going to move to Stefan next. Stefan, I'm sure you know Stefan well. Stefan is a MEA co-founder, a fintech entrepreneur, and also an investor.
Yeah, thank you, Kioria. So thanks, Debra, for the introduction. So I'm Stefan. So I am a migrant investor and entrepreneur. I came in New Zealand 7 years ago. I was based in Singapore. And so today I'm going to share my experience as a co-founder and director of a new company. It's a New Zealand startup called Aoteroa. So what is Aoteroa? It's the first home loan platform, in fact, where you can find information. So it's a full digital process. And when you can find information about how getting a loan and to manage it. So the process can be fully digital. We are plugged to all the lenders in New Zealand, and we have a full digital process. So, and you can connect from anywhere, anytime. So it's a quite big change in the mortgage industry. I think, I'm sure many of you in the audience have experienced when you want to buy a home or you want to refinance the painful traditional process when you may need to discuss with a bank or a mortgage broker. There's many manual interaction in order to get data. It's a very long process. You have a natural conflict potential of interest, so it's a big problem of transparency. So I'm going to focus on my personal journey in this advantage. As a fintech guy, so my background is mainly in fintech and innovation. So I am an entrepreneur since I'm 25. When I arrived in New Zealand, so I was a migrant investor, so I need to invest some money by definition. So it pushed me to study the finance industry because I have a clear interest for this, and by studying the finance industry, the wealth management industry, to fulfill my needs and my curiosity, I discovered, in fact, that the level of my expectation was not very happy for what I discovered, and I found that in general, there is always an exception, but I found that in general, the level of service was quite behind what you could find overseas, and so it creates some, in fact, some frustration in my mind, and I say maybe I could plug my knowledge to identify some local project and to make a change. So on the other side, I try to socialize. We arrived in New Zealand, in fact, we ticked some box. We had strictly no network with my wife. And so it was more a lifestyle choice, like many migrants who wanted to start a new life there and to take the time to think some interesting project. So I tried to, on the side, to socialize and to meet some interesting people. And the amazing fact, in fact, is that through another MIA co-founder, David Hall, I was in a situation to meet my two future other co-founders, which are Andrew and Chris. Chris is there today. And so it was the first, I didn't know it at that time, MIA didn't exist. The MIA network will work, migrant, allows a migrant to meet together. And so at the end of the day, so we share, Andrew and Chris, the other two founders, have a background in finance industry as well. And so it was a story about people from different backgrounds, different culture in the finance tech industry, sharing their passion, frustration, on all they could bring to change something through maybe a different approach, to import some stuff that we have overseas. So we had many discussions about the different finance sector, how can we make a change. So we study the wealth management, the financial information. And after different brainstorming, we decided and we noticed that the mortgage industry was a very interesting industry for us. And in fact, one of the reasons is because it's a very big industry, as Rita mentioned, it's a very interesting kiwi, they love real estate. And so we discovered the mortgage industry is a $25 billion yearly dollar, $25 billion per year industry. So it's a big industry. It can be profitable when well done, but there's a lot of, it's a very fragmented industry in general, and there's a lot of one-man operation, as there's this problem of process, productivity, efficiency, regular conflict of interest, low-tech usage. So we decided it was a very interesting industry to start and to provide a full digital experience. Our target are the first home buyer, the home owner, or the property investor when they buy or they refinance. So after 15 years of 15 months, I hope it will be 15 years. For now, it's after 15 months, in fact, of development and many recruitment, many challenges to recruit a team. When we recruit many migrants, actually we are migrants from Fiji, India, France, South Africa. We grow from a team of 3 to 15. So we developed the beta version of Stellar that has been launched the last July, so it's 6-7 months. And we have already processed some customers, so we are plugged to all the lenders, in fact, and we have already processed some application and some settlement. So it's more than a proven concept. So now I would like to, so we have a B2C and B2B segment because we develop our own technology. I have a tech background and Andrew and Chris are more financial industry background. So it was the combination, in fact, a foreigner, in fact, and 2 locals. And I think there's a lot of things to do in this phase. So I'm going to focus more, in fact, on the lesson I learned from this experience as a migrant, the human journey. So as there's many migrants in the audience, there's no need to focus too much that when you arrive in a new country, by definition you face some challenges, because there may be some barrier challenges, some cultural challenges, maybe you have no network, so it's a difficult journey. But when you add on this journey the fact of being an entrepreneur, you just add another layer of complexity. And so when you are in this situation, it can be a tough experience. And it's where the fact to be able to meet some other people, some network, to be able to connect, to exchange experience between humans can make a very valuable change in your success or in your feelings. Because there's many, I'll give you an interesting story.
I'm sorry. Stefan will share his interesting story with you over a drink afterwards. Thank you, Stefan. Right. So moving on to Michelle, who has a separate presentation. Give me 1 second to get there, please. There and there. So I've left. Are we up? We're right, we're up. And now I need to find my notes. I've left Michelle till last because Michelle has kindly agreed to stand in for her founder who had to go to China for a family emergency, I believe. So Michelle Kong has very recently joined InDevice as Chief Commercial Officer, bringing over 20 years of experience in strategic commercial innovation and governance roles with technology and infrastructure companies in New Zealand and internationally. So Michelle is really an observer of all this development going on and is also currently a board director at North Power. So I've left Michelle's perspective still last deliberately so that you can comment on this. I'll give you the screen, but please carry on.
Oh yeah, thanks Deborah, and thank you very much Mia and David for organising the event tonight. Thank you BNZ and JB Ware for hosting us at this wonderful event. So it's my great pleasure, I'll just touch it.
You just touch it.
My great pleasure to represent InDevice tonight, and I do feel like a bit of an imposter, I'm afraid, having joined InDevice only 1 month ago. But I love the opportunity here to represent InDevice, which is a deep tech company that's really focused on developing wireless inductive power systems, and particularly applicable in large-scale applications. Our founder, Daniel, as Deborah mentioned, is unfortunately not here tonight due to a family emergency. He had to go home, so he's left me to present tonight. But look, my personal journey into device really started at the end of last year, even though I started with the company at the beginning of February. But at the end of last year, I started talking to Daniel and the previous Chief Commercial Officer, Nick, about the company. And as they talked about the opportunity, I was really struck by the fact that it sat at the intersection of quite a few large trends at the moment. Number one, mass electrification of transport to address, the aspirations of many cities and governments who are trying to just decarbonise their transport emissions and meet climate change objectives. I was talking to someone earlier about Auckland Council, and Auckland Council has just put out a report last year, I think, that talks about a reduction of 65% in their transport emissions by 2030. And this is happening for lots of other councils and cities around the world. Number two, rapid development of AI and autonomous solutions. We've already had some of our founders here talk about the great work they're doing in that space. And particularly in warehousing, where warehouses are now moving to fully automated sheds where there's no human interaction whatsoever, or no human interaction and presence in the warehouses at all. Lastly, I think there's a growing public and investor sensibility around ESG concerns, and this is happening everywhere. I think people are thinking hard about how they become better stewards of health and safety for their people and for the public. They're thinking about their decarbonisation goals, how they contribute to that. They're thinking about circular business models. And so wireless charging, I think, is a huge opportunity because it really sits in the nexus of all those, and it supports these shifts across all vehicle types, even more so than the plug-in charging, which I'll talk about a little bit further. There's compared with the limitations of plug-in charging. And look, I was really attracted as well to the New Zealand Inc. story. I think the development of game-changing deep tech is incredibly valuable for our economy, both in terms of bringing a new industry and new opportunities, but also in developing and being able to retain some of the talent pool that sits here in New Zealand. So a little bit more about the journey of Int Device. I mean, I've only joined a month ago, but Int Device has been around for far longer than that. And so it was established by Daniel in 2013. He's the founder and CEO. But it was really around 2017 that they started to pivot to focus more on inductive, large-scale wireless charging systems. I mean, prior to that, he had been working still in the space, but largely providing design services to chip manufacturers. Today, we've got a team of 7 R&D engineers based in East Tamaki, and it's a whole bunch of PhD students and master's engineers, 2 of which are specialists specifically in wireless power research. And we've developed what we think is a market-leading position now after almost 10 years of R&D. So these sort of typical overnight successes that turn up after 10 years of really hard work. You know, when I talked to Daniel about what he thought were the most important things about the development and the journey of Int Device over the years, he said, look, it's all about the people and the talent, and the IP that we've developed is incredibly important to us. One thing that I didn't realise, actually, I found out during my due diligence process, was that Auckland's actually already a world-leading research hub for wireless charging systems. And so the University of Auckland has a research team there that has already been responsible for some successes. Apple has got their wireless charging hub based here in Auckland, in fact bought out Power by Proxy, which is more focused on small applications. So there's a great pool of talent here already in Auckland to support this. So our vision at Int Device really is about wireless charging everywhere, anywhere, anytime. And I talked a little bit earlier about cable charging. We think there's actually a lot of things about cable charging that's holding back the move and the transition to electric vehicles. Many limitations to plug-in charging, some of which I've listed up here. Plug-in chargers actually require quite big cables and boxes, which need to be situated somewhere, and in busy areas that's a real constraint. The need for a human to get in there and actually plug in what is a high voltage, high power system, really concerns a lot of people, especially with the spark risk. They break easily, they need maintenance, and there isn't any opportunity really for snack or opportunity charging. If you want to charge your vehicle, you've got to find a depot or find a box at the moment to charge that. So all of these problems we think are actually solved by Int Device's wireless charging system, which essentially involves wireless inducting charging between a plate, one of which sits in the ground and the other one which sits in the vehicle. And it delivers, I think we've thought really hard about the customer problems and the customer needs. So I really love that the founders have been thinking about this very much from a customer-centric perspective. There's got 4 sort of elements to this solution which we think are really game-changing and better than our competitors. Number 1, it's very high efficiency. The energy efficiency in the system is high, and that's really important when you need to generate a lot of power but not generate a lot of heat. It's a very compact solution, number 2, and low cost. And again, cost is always important for people looking to install new systems. The size of it as well is a huge consideration if you want to have one under the vehicle and one in the ground. It's a very high power system, so it enables fast charging. And I think someone earlier asked me about whether this is comparable to plug-in charging. It absolutely is. And the last one, which is a really important one for users, it's got a high tolerance level. So if you think about an autonomous vehicle driving on top of a pad, if it's misaligned in some way, it really reduces the efficiency of the system. And what our system does, it has a far larger sort of charging area than some of our competitors, so really easy to use. Part of our initial challenge really, actually, it's got so many applications that trying to find where to focus when you've got limited resources and a really small team is a massive challenge. We've chosen 2 particular segments, e-buses and e-logistics, partly because it deals to the large scale end of the spectrum, but also one feature of both of these users is that they actually own the land on which some of these pads are situated. So longer term, we do see an application for this technology in public spaces, but you can imagine installing those everywhere, it takes some time. So we've got a bus pilot with AT at the moment. That picture on the left is essentially their Tarako Drive depot. You can see how crammed the buses are. And for them, they don't want to buy new depot spaces. We know already in Shenzhen they've gone from something like, I think, in their conversion to electric vehicles, 70 depots to 120, and they simply can't afford the property it sits on. We've also got a second pilot with a global manufacturing, logistics vehicle.
All right.
Yeah, all right. Do you want me to do this last one? You leave it for Q&A.
Just leave it up.
Yeah.
I'll leave it for Q&A. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Michelle. Can I have a round of applause for our Fantastic. So, Michelle had some interesting observations and thoughts about how New Zealand companies get to the world stage. And I guess one of the advantages of a migrant-founded company is that presumably as a migrant you know there's a world out there and you know the kind of scale of the world out there. New Zealanders do know there's a world out there, of course, but the scale of the markets is something that sometimes our local founders don't quite appreciate. So perhaps, Michelle, you could start us off by just a brief comment on your observations about scaling from New Zealand.
I think on one hand it's pretty inspiring to see other people that have gone before us, so that's fantastic, but I really, Rudy's comments from earlier I think really resonated with me around, the 2 degrees of separation is both a help and a hindrance. We can find people, finding the right person here is really easy, and conversely globally really hard to find people within large organisations. But we're really far away, we lack certain capabilities that would be really helpful for us to scale. So look, there's pros and cons to scaling from here really.
Anyone else? Comments?
Do I hear there's someone from NB here? Or,
From NB to tell yourself.
I recall there was a very, very interesting survey that NB did on Kiwi entrepreneurs. They compared Kiwi entrepreneurs with Aussie entrepreneurs, with American entrepreneurs, and some of the reasons that's stopping Kiwi entrepreneurs becoming very successful. There are a couple of things in there. One of them is we're very humble. We don't often sort of be straight up and ask for help. And number 2 is we don't always get to the point. Number 3 is quite often in the barbecue conversation, people are talking about sports and kids and mountain biking. Sometimes when you bring up a new idea, hey, Stefan, I've got this idea, what do you think? You sometimes get it frowned upon. And this is really confronting. I went on a study tour to the States last year, went to Austin and San Francisco, and I was given the advice, how's your 2 minutes pitch? What do you mean, 2 minutes pitch? You never know where you might be in a situation, in a lift, in a cafe, you don't make any assumptions on who you meet, and just pitch on what you're passionate about, but do it in 2 minutes, because that's all people have time and patience for you for. So I practiced my 2 minutes pitch. I've got a 2 minutes version and a 30-second version. So you don't have the use case for it in New Zealand. Because you do that in the left time, and here people go, well, who are you? So yeah, that's just my perspective on it. I mean, if we can bring out the all that sort of spirit in the business world and the entrepreneur world, I think we go very far.
Yep. Any other thoughts, Stefan?
I just finally discovered, as being also an investor and also an entrepreneur, that when you want to scale, you generally want to go overseas. And when you want to go overseas, you need from the beginning or very soon to have some international experience among your shareholder or at your board level. And it's also something that from the very beginning, when you are too humble, you lack of ambition and you don't know what you don't know. And the fact to have some more experienced people with a very different background is a key point to make it to scale overseas and to open some doors.
Yeah.
And some things that you need to work your network for the next step at the very beginning. And sometimes some startup entrepreneurs, they start to think about it, it's little late. Not from the very beginning. They didn't think to go overseas.
That's right. That's right. I do think that the combination of the drive and ambition of a migrant founder, and I'd be interested if you agree or disagree, actually benefits also from a sense of Kiwiness. If you look at Kiwis who've been successful overseas, they tend to trade on the fact that in New Zealand we can talk to anyone. we don't stand on social status and tiers of society, and Kiwis who've been successful in corporate life overseas, part of what they tell you is that, you know, I was never one of those people who knew my place. I always felt free to ring the CEO and tell him what I really thought and things like that. So there's that balance as well, I think.